I'm Scott Allen Miller. This is my life living in Latin America. Today on our WhatsApp Nicaraguan Expat discussion group, a question came up about how do you actually go about the process of getting a SIM or eSIM to have a phone number working while you're here vacationing or moving to or visiting Nicaragua. Every country is a little bit different in how they handle this and what you can expect and even what's available to you. So this is a good opportunity to walk through exactly how you would actually normally go about doing this to make life as easy as possible for you. So we have Claro and Tigo here in the country, and today we're going to break down exactly what you need to do to go get that number to make life nice and easy for you. We'll get to that right after the bump. Getting a phone number when you move to a new country or just visiting for more than a couple days is generally a really good thing. If you are coming from the United States, it's worth knowing that if you're on T-Mobile, you generally get international service for free, and it works really well here in Nicaragua as well as all across the region. So many people who are on T-Mobile will only look at getting a local number if they have a very specific reason to do so. For example, if you're going to move to the country, of course you're going to want to have a number, but if you're just visiting, typically you don't. However, certain services in most countries will require that you have a local number. One of those here is Pedidos Ya, which is our equivalent of like an Uber Eats or DoorDash. They're going to deliver food to you, which can be very handy. If you don't have a local number, they won't even let you search for restaurants, let alone place an order. So you may want to have a number just for that. However, if you're staying in a hotel or something, generally they will be able to take care of you from the desk and you can just pay cash. But if you have the app, you can pay with credit card. So there's little things like that that can make life easier, even if you're staying for several, week and a half, could be worth it because the numbers are so cheap. And if you're on something like T-Mobile, generally your service is rather slow. And if you pay for the local service, it's really fast. So some people will do it for that reason. Of course, Wi-Fi is widely available here as well. So some people just forego having service. People who are coming from Verizon and AT&T, getting international roaming services can sometimes be a lot more costly and a lot more complicated. And so we find a lot of people coming from there, or anyone coming from Canada where international service just doesn't exist, may find the whole process too frustrating and just deal without having a phone when they're away from Wi-Fi. This is a surprising thing to me. And for those who do a lot of travel or see a lot of ads, there's services like Olafly that advertise. And of course, they should work here without a problem. However, I do not know anyone who has tested it because it's so expensive that I know of no reasonable case where it's going to be cost effective to have. So I'm not sure why anyone would use it. If you know, definitely let me know. We discussed it on the thread and we're all like, wow, for a month of service, that's like $90 something when local service is like 12. And I understand why it may be convenient, but the cost is so high. And so because of that, though, we're unaware if it counts as a local number. Does it give you the ability to use Pedidos Ya and those other things or not? And so that's potentially a complication. We don't know. But I don't know anyone who uses it here because Claro and Tigo are so cheap. I know people who get both, one or the other, people who go with none because they have T-Mobile or whatever, but I don't know anyone using those kinds of services in this part of the world. Apple and others with eSIMs have made getting an eSIM so cheap and easy. You can add so many to your phone that the concept of having these multinational services generally doesn't apply. People who are looking at those things for any amount of travel are automatically looking at services like T-Mobile or even Claro here in the region, which cover, you can get plans that cover huge amounts of the world or the entire world. So there's other strategies. My personal feeling, without doing a ton of investigation, because I have looked into it because I am a traveler, and I can't find a use case where I wouldn't be paying so much more to have one of those services. I just can't find where the benefits are. But if you know, definitely get in those comments and let me know. And as always, if you have questions, comments, or just want to say hello, scroll down and do so. We really appreciate everyone who participates. And if you'd like to send in a video question, all the information on how to do that is in the show notes. Love getting those when people send in their videos and we get to put you on the show. And all the information for how to join the WhatsApp discussion group, the Expat discussion group for Nicaragua, is in the show notes as well. And that's getting to be pretty lively already. People are talking all the time. I have so many people saying, like, I had to silence it. There's so many notes, which is true. So it's awesome that we're getting that engagement. That WhatsApp groups are new. And of course, if you're going to be traveling to this part of the world, you have to use WhatsApp. It's how everything is done. So it's a great place to have a group because it's the one tool we know everyone is going to have. Okay. So you have two carriers, Claro and Tigo, and they're really pretty similar. The one thing that's going to really matter for a lot of you is that Tigo only offers a SIM card with the option to convert it to an eSIM, and not every place that sells the SIMs can convert to eSIM. There are kiosks that can sell the cards, but only their central offices, which every city has one. This is not a hard thing to find, but only those central offices offer the eSIM conversion capability. So if you don't have an open SIM slot on your phone, you either have to turn off your current number, put in the Tigo, convert it, switch it back. If you don't have eSIM capability, of course, it doesn't matter. And if you have only eSIM capability, we're not sure how Tigo is dealing with that. So anyone with a modern North American iPhone right now, as far as we know, is unable to get Tigo unless you have another phone, put it in there, activate it, and transfer it, and no one has tested that. I have had some problems with Tigo running into, this is very anecdotal, running into some technical glitches trying to work with an eSIM, and I ended up switching to Claro because it was easier than dealing with Tigo's mistakes, and I don't know that Tigo was ever going to be able to fix it. They were not giving me very much confidence. Other than that, I've had good experiences with Tigo, using them for the last few years. However, I'm getting better experiences with Claro. I will point out, I've said this in other videos, the thing about using T-Mobile is that they piggyback on the Claro network here in Nicaragua and most of the region. So if you're getting Claro and T-Mobile, it's redundant on the same towers. But if you get Tigo and T-Mobile, you're using two different sets of towers. So people who are on T-Mobile generally opt for Tigo as their secondary service when they're here in country. And that's a great idea, but because of the service problems I had with them, I moved to Claro, and honestly, the Claro has been a better experience for me. I feel like it's faster. I have had a few things be more complicated, but a lot of it's just figuring out how it's going to work. Unlike Tigo, Claro is able to go directly to an eSIM. They just scan a QR code and get you all set up, and they never have to have access to the SIM card slot on your phone, or they work with modern iPhones from North America that do not have the slots at all. So for any of you who absolutely must have an eSIM because you don't have any flexibility with a SIM card, Claro is your only choice for the moment. I'm sure Tigo is going to have this worked out soon as more and more phones move to eSIM and stop being available with SIM cards. Now, some markets I've learned, like China, are still leaning heavily towards SIM cards for the moment, but they are in the process of looking into or moving into eSIMs, but they haven't done so heavily yet. There are eSIMs in China, but if you are coming from North America, the move is very far along in going to eSIMs only. So the idea of using SIM cards in the United States has already had a year or two of kind of being a thing of the past. Primarily, it is a legacy thing. So these are things that are changing here in Nicaragua, and the ability to use eSIMs here from the local carriers is relatively new. So we're only just starting to work out the kinks in that. They're so used to just selling cards in different places. They have a lot of little shops that they have to get up to speed on that to really be able to support it broadly. So just something to be aware of for some people. The T-Mobile Tigo combination is going to be a driving factor. For others, the availability of direct to eSIM with Claro is going to be a deciding factor. It just comes down to what works for you. Now, in pretty much all cases, how do you go about getting an actual number? Now, you need to go to a shop. When I did Tigo, I don't know if I was able to get it. I believe I can. Someone will post down below, I hope, with just a passport. With Claro, I definitely can get service with just a passport. With Tigo, I was never able to get it under my own name until I had my own cedula. I had to borrow a cedula, but I believe that's because I didn't have my passport with me at the time that I got it. So that probably is meaningless. I've not heard of anyone having a problem with that, but just be aware, you definitely have to have your passport. You do have to show ID. You can't get a phone number in the country without a full identification. So if you're a foreigner, a tourist, or anything like that, it's going to be a passport, and then once you become a resident, you're expected to use your cedula. Someone else can use their cedula, and your number can be tied to them legally, so they can track them down that way. So if you have a friend or something with a cedula, that works as well, but best to use your own ID, of course. And of course, if you have an account with one of these carriers, especially with Claro, you may also end up using them for home service because they do fiber and cable lines and things like that, television and other services. So it's quite often that people will have many different Claro services, and to a lesser degree, Tigo the same thing. In some really limited markets, they offer fiber, and some they do fixed wireless. I don't know if they have any cable, and they do television and such as well. So there's a lot of things you may do with them. Once you're in the country, you have a few different places that you're going to run into these carriers the moment you enter the country. If you're coming in by air, when you land at the airport, at least during the day, there are kiosks for both of these companies right in the airport before you go outside. You can stop in and get your number set up right there. And they do this for tourists all the time. So they're prepared to help you, right? No problem at all. That's very easy. If you're coming in by the land border at Costa Rica, which is the only real tourist border, in my experiences, if you're coming in by bus, someone from Claro will get on the bus with you, and they will help you get set up with a SIM card right there on the bus, which is a really great option because you have nothing else to do, right? You have a while to go till you get a food stop. You're just bored on the bus, right? So you might as well get your phone set up then. That's a perfect opportunity. If you come in through Honduras, or you don't manage to get into, no one gets on your bus, or you drive across the border yourself, or you land at the airport in the middle of the night and these kiosks aren't open, what can you do? One, best to be on T-Mobile. I can't state this enough. If you're an American and not on T-Mobile, seriously rethink your phone plans. Like, they're cheaper, they work better, and they're the only ones that give you reliable global service. And it's included. Everyone else charges you and has a lot of problems globally. Everyone I know who travels seriously from the US uses T-Mobile, or from Europe uses Deutsche Telekom, which is T-Mobile parent company. If you're coming from Latin America, Claro has these massive roaming plans that are very similar. If you're coming from Canada, you're out of luck. But until you get a local service or have something like T-Mobile, you won't have access to be able to have data, and you don't need to make phone calls. No one's going to need to make phone calls. That's not a thing. No one's going to need to text. Not really a thing. But having data so you can get to your maps, so you can get to WhatsApp, so you can get to Google things to look up, information, to get to your hotel websites or booking services, all those things. That's super important. Those are the things you need. Everybody here functions on WhatsApp, so you need data to get to WhatsApp. You don't care about minutes. They aren't going to affect you. I have been here for 4 years. I have made a total of 0 minutes of calls all that time, and never once have I said, ooh, I wish I could make a call. I have minutes all the time. Never use them. They are worthless. So if you get into the country and you do not get something right at arrival, what you want to do is go to your local Claro or Tigo store that's going to be able to sell these. Now, there are places that say Claro and Tigo all over the place. Every few feet, you're going to see a sign for this. These are recargas. They're just little tiny signs hang out on clearly a business that sells soda, sells water, sells snacks, whatever. Some of them do little minor banking services, and they'll have a little sign out, may say Claro, may say Tigo, may say both. These are recargas. They're not going to be able to sell you a chip, as far as I know, ever. Basically never. They are there. All they do is they go online and they put in your money to recharge your phone later. That's a different thing. We'll talk about that at the end. But that's what they do. When you want to get a number for the first time, when you want to show your ID and justify getting a phone number, and it's only a couple dollars. This is a very cheap thing. You have to go to an actual representative of one of the companies. So the easiest thing to do here in Leon, for example, there is a giant Claro store right on the plaza downtown, and just 2 blocks away from that is the Tigo store. You can look on Google Maps in any city that you're in and find it really easily. Before you go, if you know what city you're going to be in, post here on the community enough time ahead for people to see it, and we'll send you a map link of where your local store is. That is not hard at all. And there are sometimes some dealers beyond these that are a little bit larger that can issue you a card. So if you get into a situation where you really need to get something, talk to your taxi driver, talk to your hotel desk or whatever, and they'll direct you to the local place that's likely to be able to help you. But if you're in most cities, just go to the actual stores. It's going to be so much easier. They're air conditioned. They have concierges. They have people who direct you to things. They're ready for big volumes. They're ready to handle any technical glitches that come up. It's just really easy. Do that. I just had to deal with Claro recently. So easy. In most cases, you just walk in, beautiful offices. You'll have a person that's standing there to make sure you're getting the information you need. You take a number, or you put in a little bit of information, like I'm here for a new number, and it gives you a ticket number. You sit in a waiting room, and I believe both do this. Definitely at Claro, they have a screen on the wall that says how long the line is. Typically, it's immediate, and they'll have your ticket number and what desk you're going to go to, because it's kind of like being in a bank where there's people behind, like tellers kind of thing. And so get in, I get ticket 273, and it says go to desk 4. So you just look up at the TV. Oh, I don't even have to wait. It's immediate. Just walk over to desk 4, hand them your ticket, and they'll say, what do you need? You say, I need a new number. I need a new SIM or eSIM. Make sure you specify. Do you want a physical one or a digital one? You always want digital unless you have a really pressing need to have a regular SIM, which of course, if you have no eSIM capability, is a pretty pressing need. But under normal circumstances, eSIMs are just modern SIMs. regular SIMs without the E are just the old ones, right? There's no good reason. They're less secure. They're much harder to deal with, and you just don't want them, right? And they're super limited. You can only have the highest number of SIMs you can have on any phone is 2. Most only support 1. eSIMs are 30 plus, right? Very, very powerful and more secure compared to the old system. There's a reason why Apple has done away with old SIM cards. And I know there's a lot of myths associated with eSIMs. None of those things are true. Nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It just means a modern digital SIM card that you don't have to have the physical card. That's all it means. If someone gives you the impression that it means something more than that, either they're scamming you, not too likely, or they're just completely confused and think it means something having to do with travel or having to do with online services, or people are being introduced to the term eSIM in weird places like Olafly, and people are associating them with that. They have nothing to do with that. Olafly could work from a regular SIM as well, but then they'd have to ship it to you, right? It's just, eSIMs are just modern SIMs. Period, end of story. Nothing more should be associated with it. Okay, so you go in, you tell them that you need the eSIM, they say new number, and it'll take them a few minutes. You give them your phone, they'll set it up for you, they'll put a stupid name in your phone to call it because they don't have a standard, and so sometimes it'll be called business line, sometimes it'll be called data service, like all kinds of weird things that make no sense, and then you're all set. You're done. Like, it's that easy. They will handle it's like $2. And then they'll often say, do you want to put, time on it? And then with both carriers, prices are roughly the same. What you want is their mega packs or their whatever they're called, super packs. They have different marketing terms for that, but it's the bundle of all the things, and it includes a lot of internet. So with Tigo, I believe it costs 200 cord for 15 days. It's for some reason, it's always 15 days that you want. That's where the best number is. And with Claro, it is 230 cord for 15 days. Now, Claro does offer a 30-day package, but it costs more than 2 15-day packages. So it depends if you're looking to save a few dollars or you want to just spend a few dollars and you're on vacation for 29 days. This will just take care of it. You don't have to deal with recharging it, even though it costs more. That's why they do that. Go ahead and pay the extra couple bucks for the month and just not worry about it. But if you're here all the time like me, 15 days is by far the best deal because you get the lowest price. If I get to the end of my 15 days and say I'm traveling in the US and I'm not going to use my number, I don't recharge it until I come back. So I just did this. So I paid for 2 weeks before I left. Went to the US for 2 weeks, came back, turned it back on. So I paid over a 6-week period. I only paid for 4 weeks that I would actually use. That's another nice advantage. If I was forced to pay or paying in bigger blocks, I might have paid say $18 for that time period of 1.5 months, but instead I paid 12. I know that's not a big number to worry about, but over time, as you live in Nicaragua and this becomes your lifestyle, paying 50% more sometimes for your internet service is just one more spot where you're like, wow, I'm wasting a lot of money. Why am I doing that? These are ways you can manage your cost of living and keep things even cheaper. So, and if you're at home, like I am quite often, and I know I'm not leaving the house and my recarga's up, I don't bother recharging while I'm at home because I'm on Wi-Fi and I don't want to use the 5G data because it's not quite as fast as my Wi-Fi and it uses more power. So like, why do that? So I just stay on the Wi-Fi, and when I'm going to leave the house and go somewhere, either if I'm just going around to the corner, I don't even worry about it because I'm on T-Mobile. So I have the slower service. That's fine. I mean, I can live with that. But if I'm going to be traveling to Managua, for example, I'm going to be on the road for a significant amount of time. I'm going to be away from the house. I'm going to want my phone to really be able to work. Maybe I want to watch some videos on it. Maybe I want to post some updates for you guys. Then I'll pay for my Claro Recarga, which is just recharging it and get more days. So with a little bit of planning, if you're going to be here for any length of time, it can be really inexpensive. Of course, if you're here as a tourist, you're going to be using it every day, right? So you really want to have it covered. But if you're living here or staying for really long periods of time, having a little bit of flexibility, I easily average only $6 to $8 per month for all the service that I need instead of 12 to 18, depending on how I did it. So it ends up being really cost effective for me and very easy to deal with. I keep moving around because my gardeners are here and they're mowing the lawn and they keep making a lot of noise. And so I'm trying to get the microphone to not point towards them as much as possible, if you're wondering why I'm moving around in somewhat less than ideal locations and in different locations than I normally film in. This is my back garden and this is my bodega. This is a standalone bodega, which is really cool. It's not air conditioned or anything. It's just a small building on the edge of the property. I'm facing our laundry area, which is enormous, but with the bodega, we have this for our not important storage, things that don't need to be weather controlled. Often we'll have like pieces of luggage, we'll throw them in plastic bags, store them in here. What's nice is we can open the windows when we need to, and everything, we just seal it in plastic so we don't worry about rats or anything like that getting in. There's no food, nothing in there, nothing attracts anything. A lot of bats live in there, which is actually perfect, and it's all locked and everything, and it's inside our gated area. So if anyone was going to get in there, they would have to hop our walls and get in, which story for another time, but then they'd have to break into the bodega as well. And we have cameras everywhere pointed at it, and it has its own lights, and has motion detectors on it and everything. So we take care of it, and it's easy to secure, but it's also an outbuilding that we can use like a giant kind of garage for outdoor storage. It works out great. This is, if you have the space and you're living here in Nicaragua, I highly recommend outdoor bodegas. It's just one of those things that in America, often having a storage shed like this would be a little bit expensive, but here it's so cheap to build one of these that it's a fantastic way to have quite a bit of storage, because the American and Canadian expats, we have a tendency to own a lot more stuff than the typical Nicaraguan does. Even really affluent Nicaraguans, they have a lifestyle of not accumulating things that need to go into storage. And so most Nicaraguan houses, now if you build your own, it'll be different, but if you're buying a Nicaraguan built and designed house, there's a really good chance that it's not going to have sufficient storage for your everyday things. They're really good about having plenty of room for clothing and laundry stuff, but when it gets beyond that, it starts being like, what would you store? And they have no plans for dealing with those things. And so we find that we really need a lot more storage than normal Nicaraguan houses supply, and this has been a godsend for us. So just bringing that up, since we're looking at it, and we very rarely do. Okay, so we've gotten you to the point where you got a number. Now, the great thing about getting a number, Claro or Tigo, is that they're yours for life for all intents and purposes. Like, it doesn't matter if you're using it or not, doesn't matter if you stay in country or not. Once you've done this process one time, your first visit, you're basically good. And that's where having an eSIM is really nice, is you don't have to deal with that card ever. It's just on your phone. Now, I did just update my phone in the United States, and they were unable to transfer my eSIM from one phone to the other. And they said I had to come talk to Claro in order to do that. I don't know what I would have done if I wasn't coming back to Nicaragua. Like if I was in the States for, say, several years and I only visited Nicaragua every few years, I'm not sure how I would have gone about doing that. I think they may be able to transfer the number without the old phone. That would make sense. I don't know why they wouldn't, but in my situation, I was able to show them the phone and say that this didn't transfer, and they just transferred it for me. So I had no problems. I'm not sure how you would deal with that. So there is the potential that you may lose this number over time, depending on things that you do if you're not in Nicaragua on a regular basis because you change phones, and then you'd need to get a new one. You may need to go through this process again. But under normal circumstances, people who get these numbers either never return to the country because they do it just as a tourist, and then it's just a throwaway number, or you get to use it again whenever you come. So I have this number as much as I come and go from Nicaragua, as much as I turn it on and off. I'm always able to keep using the same number, and I don't have to go through this process of getting an eSIM again. That makes life really easy. So this is a one-time, hopefully, effort that you need to put in. Then what do? Then you have a lot of choices. Once you have that number, you don't need your ID anymore. You don't need anything hard. You can go back to the store where you bought it. You can go to any of those places that have the dangling signs of any type for either Claro or Tigo. Obviously, it has to be the one that you got. And then you can recharge your phone there, which is as easy as, in some cases, they'll take a credit card, definitely at the main stores, but at the little pulperias, and these are literally everywhere, you can walk up and just give them whatever money you have, and they'll charge it for the amount that you want. So with Claro, the plan I always get is 230 cord. So if I just have 230 cord on me, I just walk up, hand them that, and they set up my phone. I have to give them my phone number, and they take care of everything. And I just get a note on my phone: you've been recharged, and I get another 15 days. That's all I need to do if I'm out and about and have cash. If I'm online, this does vary a little bit. If I have Tigo, there is an app that you can download, and from that you can charge yours or other people's Tigo accounts. You can only use it to charge other people's if you have Tigo as well, which is really annoying. But you could it detects your phone number. You say, I want this plan. Always get the 15-day unless you know you're not going to be there that long. And always use the super pack or mega pack, whatever it's called, and you just put in your credit card, and instantly your phone is turned back on. So if you are anywhere with Wi-Fi, you could have been off for a month, for 2 months. You're sitting at a cafe and go, I'm going to walk the streets. I want to have good data. recharge, and it takes 30 seconds. Well, it's probably like 2 minutes, and you're all set up and you're good for as long as you want. Easy, easy, easy. With Claro, it's similar but slightly more complicated, but you don't have to install an app. They have a website that you go to, and I have had a little bit of problem. One, it's not as intuitive, and two, I have had some problems with processing my credit cards. It's always worked eventually, but I have had some complications with it saying, oh, this credit card isn't viable in Nicaragua or something. But my credit cards work other places, including Claro, so it's very confusing, but I have gotten it to work. You just go to this website, do the exact same process, put in your credit card, and it recharges you as well. So those are normally what people do, and often you get a little bit of a discount for doing that, just pennies, but a tiny bit. Again, adds up over a lifetime. And so by having the app, it's so easy. That's what I do when I'm at home. Yes, if I needed to, I could walk within 5 minutes to 3 or 4 different pulperias that will recharge my phone with cash and maybe with credit. I've never tried. But if I am sitting at home, I'm doing normal things, I'm getting ready to go out, I can just go to the website, put in my information, and recharge from there. Or I can even send a note to a friend and say, hey, will you recharge my phone for me? And people do this all the time. Oh, I'm somewhere, I can't deal with it, I don't have service at the moment, but I'm gonna need it when I get somewhere. Can you recharge my phone for me? And people just go on the website, put in the information, and recharge that way. So it's a common thing that people do, recharging for each other. That's pretty much it. That's such an easy thing. Now, these are the prepay plans, which is what you generally want to have, or pre-pago. Pago just means pay. There's also post-pago, which in English would be post-pay, which is the normal plan types that you have in America. That's where you pay after the fact, but you have guaranteed monthly service, and you have to pay every month whether you're using it or not. For most people, I recommend the prepay, the pre-pagos, because they're just so cost effective and so easy to deal with here. If you're in the United States, it would not be so easy to deal with. I'd be like annoyed and I'd want the regular type plan. But here, almost everyone uses the pre-pago. It's the assumption of how your phone is going to work, and you get amazing deals for it. The one thing that would drive me to consider the post-pago is that both Tigo and Claro offer some post-pago plans. They're definitely way more expensive than what we've talked about, but they have like all Latin America coverage or all European coverage and other things that are completely included. That would be enticing under the right circumstances if I didn't have T-Mobile. So if you're Canadian, for example, and getting Claro, I could see why that might make sense for you to solve the lacking T-Mobile problem. But if you're American, just get T-Mobile and you won't be tempted with those plans. But if you're only going to have a plan in Nicaragua, if you use it all the time, or never going to take time off from using it, the postpay could make sense. But in general, I don't know anyone who does that or anyone who wants to do that. But the option does exist. Just be aware that that's what the terms mean, pre-pago. So what we're talking about, post-pago, is the normal style that the US and Canada expect people to do. Not everyone does. You can do prepay in the US too. It's just very uncommon. I think that's pretty much everything you could possibly need to know. You should be able to go get a number and be able to recharge. And with this, my dogs are running like crazy. With this, you really never need to go through this process again. Like I said, it's a one-time setup. The only time you'll have to revisit those stores is if something goes wrong. Your number stops working, your phone gets messed up, and you need to talk to a tech. Yes, you can go back to the stores and they will help you. But in general, you just buy the number one time, you get the eSIM, it gets put on your phone, and from then on, all you do is recharge it when you want to use it, and it is as easy as can be. If you try to work around this and you're not going to the stores to get set up, if you're, it can end up being convoluted. I remember the first time trying to do this being very unclear how to do it until we realized there were real big Claro and Tigo official stores that were actually by the companies. And then once you walk in there, they handhold you through everything, and it's so easy. So that's the thing to do. Airport, on the bus, sometimes you get lucky. There are kiosks, but go to the big stores. It's a one-time thing. It's important. You want to have your phone working. Just take the time to go. It could be in Managua. It could be in Leon. It could be in any city's going to have them. These are the companies that run the country, right? Everybody depends on them. They have the services. Just do that, and it'll be super easy. So thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. Again, questions, comments, get down there. Send in a video, please. It's awesome when people do that. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at the link above, buymeacoffee.com/Scott Alan Miller. It's like Patreon comes directly to me, or you can join our community with the link below. It says join, and it's $5 a month, and gives you that amazing warm and fuzzy feeling that you're helping make this possible every month. And as always, I will see all of you tomorrow.